Joe Biden actually did fulfill his commencement speech at Morehouse, but it was not met without some sort of resistance. Now, I argue that the protest at Morehouse should have been more powerful. I would have done more than just turn my back to Joe Biden. But there was some resistance to Joe Biden at the protest. Let's go ahead and get into that. Now, one of the things that Max Blumenthal pointed out is the fact that Joe Biden was already lying in his speech right off the bat. Listen to this. He says, Morehouse commencement, Joe Biden falsely claimed he saw pictures of Palestinians tying a mother and a daughter in a rope. Yeah, here we go, folks. Right. So here we go. Once again, lying about something that he did not see.
What's happening in Gaza and Israel is heartbreaking. Hamas's vicious attack on Israel, killing innocent lives and holding people hostage. I was there 9 days after. Said pictures of tying a mother and a daughter in a rope, pouring kerosene on them, burning them, and watching as they died.
So, number one, that didn't happen. And number two, he was not there. Yes, David, boo this man, boo this man. He was not there. That did not happen. You see how Joe Biden can just continually tell lies? He just makes things up, just makes up stuff. And there was more, because another thing that apparently they were not honest with the students about is that the students were told that Joe Biden's commencement speech would have nothing to do with his campaign and would not be used by his campaign. Yet, here is Joe Biden's campaign using his commencement speech, which is what they told the students would not happen. So shout out to Margaret Kimberly for catching this. The president of Morehouse College claimed that Biden's commencement address would not be used by his campaign. And yet here we are. Here's Joe Biden's campaign using this, and you'll see this ad here. Let's go ahead and start it here. They did exactly just that, used his speech as part of the campaign.
You start a college just as George Floyd was murdered, and there was a reckoning on race. It's natural to wonder if democracy you hear about actually works for you. What is democracy? If black men are being killed in the street, what is democracy? Betrayal of broken promises still leave black communities behind. What is democracy? You have to be 10 times better than anyone else to get a fair shot. And most of all, what does it mean, as we've heard before, to be a black man who loves his country, even if it doesn't love him back in equal measure?
Now, let's remember, okay? Joe Biden was the one who co-wrote the crime bill, right? Notice how he's talking about democracy. So again, this was another way for Joe Biden to campaign for his reelection, which should not have been done at a commencement address. And again, his campaign should not have used any parts of his speech for the campaign, which is the promise that they made to the students. So Joe Biden, make this clear, Joe Biden once again used the black community for his campaign while doing nothing for the black community.
When I sit behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, in front of the fireplace across from my desk, I have two busts, one of Dr. King, one of Bobby Kennedy. I often find myself looking at those busts, making decisions. Ask myself, are we living up to what we say we are as a nation? To end racism and poverty? To deliver jobs and justice? To restore our leadership in the world?
So, yeah. So another lie told by Joe Biden, and his campaign. So they lied to those students. And then another thing I want to mention as well, there was a discussion about this on MSNBC, and I want you guys to hear this. April Ryan was one of the commentators on MSNBC having this discussion, talks about how the commencement is over. And she goes on to say that Joe Biden talked about his accomplishments in the midst of visible, peaceful protests. Let's get into this because I have a couple of things to say about her comments here, because she brings up MLK. And I want to mention something that I think some people are not saying, that Tavis Smiley and I actually discussed yesterday. Listen to this.
I want to bring in right now April Ryan. She's the White House correspondent and the Washington bureau chief for the GRIO. She's also an MSNBC contributor. April, good to have you. So you just heard the speech. Molly and I have been talking about this notion of a commencement speech versus a campaign speech. I want to just get your initial reaction to what you heard in our conversation so far.
Well, I greatly differ with Molly. I respect her opinion, but I greatly differ. I interviewed the president of Morehouse prior to this address this week, and he said he did not believe that there would be any protests. He said he did not believe that the students there would risk zip ties and be taken out. But there were peaceful protests. From the beginning, when the president stood up, you saw the Congolese flag by faculty members, faculty and staff of the university. That signified that there needs to be a focus on Congo, the atrocities that are happening in Congo.
Yeah, that did happen. There were faculty members who held up the flag for the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
And if you look in the crowd, yes, the president ticked off all of his messages about his positives and what he's done for Black America. But there was clearly an understanding in that crowd of Black men, of family members of all walks of life who understood the oppression by groups of people. You had people who were wearing the Palestinian liberation scarf. Okay. And you had people who turned their backs. We clearly saw that. You saw one faculty member. I don't even know if it's a faculty or student member, but it was someone standing in the back with their fist up. So there was clear protest that the president saw. People with their backs turned, people with their heads down. There was clear protests, peaceful protests in this moment on this sacred grass, on this sacred ground called a Centennial Campus. And the president told me the reason why it's so sacred, and he did not expect that to happen, I'm talking about the president of Morehouse, because of the sanctity and the sacred nature of that campus. The only time the students walk on that campus is for graduations and when there was a eulogy for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
So let's talk about MLK, since people like to bring him up so much in reference to these protests. We talked about this yesterday on Tavis Smiley's radio show, and he brought up what MLK said about LBJ, right? So you've heard references from people saying that, well, basically Gaza is Biden's Vietnam. What did MLK say? MLK said, no, we will not vote for LBJ because of his support for the war in Vietnam, because of the atrocities that the U.S. government had committed to civilians in Vietnam. Remember, this is the last time that people actually saw warfare on national television. And because there was so much outrage about it, they decided, let's not show war coverage on national television again. So MLK was against supporting LBJ for re-election. He did not want to, and was vocal about it and said, we cannot support him because of what the U.S. government is doing to women and children in Vietnam. And he talked about how the money that was being used to commit the atrocities overseas, that is money that is not being used domestically in this country for people's needs here. But he was very adamant about that. You cannot support LBJ. A lot of people want to bring up Dr. King, but they want to leave certain things out, particularly when we're talking about Joe Biden. So what would Dr. King say to you today during this election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, if you're looking at Democrat and Republican Party? Dr. King, I would assume, would tell you you cannot support Joe Biden because of his funding and supporting of the atrocities against the Palestinian people in Gaza. under no circumstances. So when I saw the way the students protested at Morehouse, turning their back, yeah, I get it. That's nice. That's cute. That's sweet. But that does not go far enough, especially when I show you other colleges where the students walked out during commencement. When you protest, you don't protest to make the other side comfortable. And I feel like the way these protests were done, it was done in such a way that it made Joe Biden okay with it. Joe Biden was fine with it and said, I appreciate the way that they chose to protest. That means the protest was not as effective. You are supposed to disrupt. That's the whole point of a protest, is to disrupt. Turning your back, get up and walk out. Walk away from this man. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but you see the picture here. Now here's one here. Hold on, let me make the picture bigger so you can see it, okay? All right, Morehouse. So you see here's a graduate here, right? So they got the fist up, the Black Power fist up, and they have their back to Joe Biden. Okay, that's nice. But at the end of the day, Joe Biden is still speaking to an audience of people. The way that you prevent him and you stop the speech is you get up and you walk out. You don't stay there. You don't stay there and say, what are you doing? What are we doing? MLK wouldn't tell you to stay there. MLK would have told you to walk out. And we didn't even go into what Malcolm X would have told you to do. So we have to remember these things, folks. We have to remember what revolutionary leaders said in this country before. What would they have told you to do? Why would you even go there and entertain this man? Why? So you can get your diploma? They mail it to you. When I walked across the stage, that wasn't my diploma. That was just a sheet of paper that says, congratulations. My actual diploma was mailed to me. What are we going to do as a people? Why are we going to sit here and continue to entertain this man? You cannot. Now, there were two people. I do want to bring this up. And I did post this one. But I still feel like they should have got up and walked out. I said, I see someone at Morehouse had the guts to speak up about the U.S. government and Gaza. Listen to this.
Head down. And I know some of y'all don't agree like me. It's all right when you preach your sermon, preach it the way you want to preach it. But today I'm going to preach mine the way God told me to preach it. Yeah. When the United States continues to send billions of dollars to fund weapons to Israel, it'll make you hold your head down. When almost 35,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, while 1,200 people have been killed in Israel, it'll make you hold your head down. When institutions who taught us to be socially conscious turn and ask for us to become conveniently silent, it'll make you hold your head down.
But that's exactly what you did. The part there that he mentioned at the end, when institutions, right, they tell you to be silent, but that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. You know what those students could have done? Those students could have went into commencement the moment Joe Biden got up there to speak, all stand up, walk out, and go hold their own celebration among each other out on the yard. That's what those students could have done. What is the president going to do? They're going to arrest them because they walked out of commencement? Get out of here. It's a free country. I ain't got to stay in this room. You don't have to stay in that room. Don't let these people fool you. Don't let them instill fear into you. The president of Morehouse works for the board of trustees, and that is who he's responding to, and that is who he's doing the work for. You do not owe Joe Biden your attention. You do not owe Joe Biden your presence. And I'm pretty sure if MLK was here, and I'm pretty sure if Malcolm X was here, and I damn well know if Fred Hampton was here, they would not put up with that. Period. Now, there was one more student. He said something else about Gaza as well. What's funny about this one is you can actually see Joe Biden's face over in the corner at the bottom. You see Joe Biden over here in the you see Joe Biden's face over here in the corner? Okay, watch this.
It is my stance as a Morehouse man, nay, as a human being, to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in the Gaza Strip.
Now notice, why is Joe Biden clapping? You guys see this again? Look over to the bottom right corner. Why is Joe Biden clapping at that when he's the one that has the power to call for a ceasefire? It doesn't make any damn sense.
Hear the people of this world. Sing the song of righteous justice. Thank you. And
what's sad, and I want people to understand, this is where Democrat politicians and the DNC, this is where they go to basically recruit the next crop of politicians. The Black Boule. They go to Morehouse. They go to Spelman. They go to Howard. This is where they turn to recruit the next group of Black people to come into Congress and do their bidding. You ain't got to ask me. I know. They look toward them. Where do you think? I bet you AIPAC is up in there somewhere too. Because according to Cory Booker's comments towards AIPAC in that meeting, he told them you got to get them when they're young in the colleges. So they're all up in these schools trying to get these kids and get them to sell out. And this was your moment. This was your moment. And this was your opportunity. And you ruined it. And I'm pissed. And people can take it any kind of way. Yes, it's nice they did these things, but this was not loud enough. This was a ripple for mainstream media to say, well, those kids at Morehouse didn't behave that way. They actually received Biden very well for the most part. Biden even said that he appreciated the way that they chose to protest. That means it wasn't effective. That is not a good thing. That is not something you should pat yourself on the back for. And for the Uncle Tom president to sit up there and threaten you and to tell you that you will be arrested if you protest, screw him too. Who's cashing his checks? This is Morehouse? What happened to the HBCUs? What is going on here? Look at who's really in control. Now I want to show you. Margaret Kimberly wanted you guys to see this because the mainstream media doesn't want to show you what happened outside. Dear everyone, don't be confused by corporate media. Black people are not down with genocide. So you see this outside of Morehouse College. Let me go ahead and pull this up here so you can see it. See, stop arming Israel. So the graduates should have been out there with them. These are obviously people that were not a part of commencement, right? That's why they're out there. And there was, of course, the car that was honking as well. But I want to show you the comparison, okay? See, Chuck Modi has been on the ground for all of these protests. He's been out there just doing the damn thing. And he said, this AM, DC student graduation walkouts at both George Washington University and Georgetown University for schools to divest from genocide and free Palestine. Below is the Georgetown walkout. So watch this.
Candidates for the Master of Arts in Arab Studies.
Up with liberation! Down with occupation! Down with occupation! Up with liberation! Up with liberation! Down with occupation! Down with occupation! Disclose! Divest! We will not stop! We will not rest! Disclose! Divest!
So you see, these are the students in their graduation gowns, right? In their commencement gowns. This is what Morehouse should have done. You know, instead of the turn in the back to Joe Biden, get up and walk out. Get up and walk out. And then I want to show you what Yale students did as well. Yale students walk out of graduation waving Palestinian flags and chanting, disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Oh, and for the people who are telling me, oh, there's no black kids out there doing that. Really? That is what we should have seen from Morehouse, right? We don't want people just to be caving to what Joe Biden wants. That is not what should have been happening, regardless of who the president is. I don't know what has happened to these HBCUs. I feel like a lot of them they're just going along with what the establishment wants. And that is not why these universities were created in the first place. That is not why HBCUs were created. Not good. Someone said they were disappointed. Chris, I'm disappointed in Morehouse and expected to see so much more from the students. Same here, ma'am. Same here. Let me see that comment on Rumble, Eric. Thank you. I'm frizzy today. Thank you for the comment on Rumble. Goo. Didn't more African Americans get killed by policy under Obama's watch with Emperor Palpatine Biden? I have to check those numbers, so I can't confirm, but BLM, and particularly with Ferguson, that started under Barack Obama, and he sent in the National Guard. I remember that. Thank you for this as well. Mr. Magoo is more aware of what's going on around him than Emperor Palpatine Biden. Mr. Magoo. Oh, no. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Why didn't someone yell out, yo, Biden? It was us who delivered you the Senate, who gave you Warnock and Ossoff here in Georgia. Where's our $2,000 checks you promised? Yeah, that's another thing. I'm just like, why? Fuck this, man. I think a lot of these presidents have been, some of these university presidents have been bought off. Because that's ridiculous. Ain't no way I would have sat there. I would have been gone. And I would have told my parents, Mom, Dad, I graduated, but I'm walking out of commencement. That's what I would have done.